Those events. I'm joined by security analyst and executive director of the Henry Jackson Society, Dr. Alan Mendoza. Good morning to you, Dr. Mendoza. You've carried out analysis of information that came out after the attack in Westminster. Talk us through your findings.
Well, I think it's broader than that. What you're looking at is in Western countries in the past few years, you're looking at the types of attack that have occurred. And what we found is that in 2016, whereas vehicular attacks, attacks using a vehicle to kill civilians, were at around 7.6%. They rose dramatically the year after, 2017, to about 20.4% of all attacks in Western countries. Now, that's a huge increase, obviously, and I think reflects the ease of ability of getting hold of a vehicle as a method of attack, as opposed to some of the more sophisticated things we've seen in the past. Yeah,
it does seem that those who want to carry out these kind of attacks are going for the low-tech options.
It's a low-tech option, it's the easy-to-access option, it's also the very difficult-to-stop option, because at the end of the day, you can just have somebody, it would appear, who can just get up one morning, go and stake out something and then attack, rather than having to plan a whole bombing campaign.
It's interesting, isn't it? The Houses of Parliament, one of the most protected sites in the world. They're set up for this kind of thing. You can see the barriers there and police on the scene within minutes. There is now a debate about pedestrianising roads in front of Parliament and at other high-profile sites in the country, those that may be the target for terror. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's summed up by one of the news headlines you just showed a moment ago. We can't let them win. If we allow our cities to be pedestrianised, if we allow them to dictate the way that our cities are used, then haven't terrorists won in that way? I think it's worth remembering the barriers worked in this instance. The barriers stopped the car from getting anywhere near the actual building of Parliament. They perform their purpose. Now, you could say that, of course, Parliament will always be a target. But if you shut off Parliament and some other high-profile targets, is that going to stop terrorism? Of course not. It's just going to displace it somewhere else. We need to focus on better prevention and, indeed, on getting to the root cause of the issues.
It's interesting, isn't it? We saw the police on the scene there in the immediate aftermath of that crash. They were very prompt, within minutes, we're told, faster than the Westminster attack in 2017. You do wonder, though, if these kind of attacks took place on less high-profile targets, what the response would be. Would it be as speedy? Would it be as effective? You do question why attackers want to target somewhere that's highly fortified compared to somewhere that might not be. Is it because it's more symbolic rather than carrying out maximum damage?
Well, that's exactly the point. I mean, you get some symbolic attacks and you're looking at targets which symbolise beyond just the killing of people or the maiming of people. So obviously a democratic institution like Parliament goes to the heart of what this country is about. And that is why, obviously, it's always going to be a target. At the same time, your note about the preparedness, that is key here. It is really true that were this to have happened somewhere else, the police would probably not have been there in the same amount of time, simply because they're not ready for it. So there is this very dangerous game you've got to play between, in a sense, you recognise there will be high-profile targets and then you prepare for that and you respond really quickly, or you try and displace that activity somewhere else and it could be much, much worse. I think it's worth seeing in some of the other cases we've seen on the continent with guns and things, that the more minutes it takes to get to the scene of the crime, the more people who die.
OK, Dr. Alan Mendoza from the Henry Jackson Society, thank you for coming in to see us this morning. Thank you.